I'm getting a pulse on Deltarune, Mom. Are you proud? It's not because I played the funny game and I'm gonna say this was inspired by Earthbound. It's because I played chapters 3 and 4, and I think the point of these chapters was to tell us the point of Deltarune, to reveal the heart of the game and what sets it apart from Undertale. I think I get it. I think we all get it now. I think things are so different than they used to be, and if you don't want spoilers, you better turn around. I've now played my first runs of 3 and 4, and I really, really loved them, but as anybody who went to the stream would tell you, it got pretty heavy. That's like the entire point of chapter 4. It gets pretty heavy and dark, and I think everybody is kind of at each other's throats right now in the fandom because they just turned it up a notch. Like, if you're listening to this not knowing what's going on, it's not like they killed somebody. It's not like, oh gosh, this is all fucked up and evil. I think it's just that he needed to use this turning point in chapter 4 to reveal the tone, reveal the point of the game, reveal the heart of the story. And now that it's out there, we get it to some degree. We are capable of getting it now, so. I've looked at it all. I've read it all. Everything we know, till we find some new Snowgrave route. I found everything we know online. I'm gonna talk about it. You better get out of here if you don't want to have your heart stabbed in the back by truth and future and knowledge. It's simply spoilers cut and dry. I think Undertale was therapy while Toby was carrying the baby of Deltarune in his heart. So right now, the things that I'm grappling with, the things that the whole fandom is grappling with, I'm not gonna summarize the chapters, there are other videos for that. We met the Roaring Knight. Holy shit, that was crazy. Holy shit, that was crazy. Very important stuff. That bitch is either Carol Holiday or Des Holiday, with some crazy, weird, metaphysical, possible Gaster influence that we don't understand yet. We cannot understand the Knight properly yet, but we know it's either Des or Carol. Likewise, the person calling Chris on the phone is either Des or Carol. Things are getting quite narrow, aren't they, for the Deltarune world? Then, the last page of the prophecy, the big boy, the reason we're here. Is it about is the girl in the prophecy Noelle or Susie? And what is that last prophecy? Is it Chris betraying somebody? Is it somebody has to die? Or is it far more likely that the girl that they're talking about has to die, like Aerith or something like that? That's not very broad. Before we were talking about, like, could Mike be Tenna? Could Woody be Buzz? Like, we were all over the place. But now things are coalescing into this one specific thing. Those characters I just mentioned, like 75% of them are holidays, and we were spending all the time building up to this saying, damn, the holidays sure are important. Merry Christmas, because yeah, they are. And as you can probably tell from the way I'm presenting this, Night, phone call, prophecy, girl. It seems like something is being set up where we are playing with fate. Fate is coalescing. Fate is centering on this big, dramatic, bad thing that almost certainly has to do with a member of the fun gang, probably Susie or Noelle, with Noelle being pretty much honorably a part of the fun gang based on all the evidence we've got. We've got like the 4-person Deltarune symbol now. We got everything we needed. Noelle is locked into the party. This whole game is revolving around her. And yet, who is the character we've devoted most of the character arcs in chapters 1 to 4 to? Susie. Who punches the final prophecy? Susie. Who is Rousey trying to protect from the final prophecy? Susie. Who is distraught about the final prophecy and goes to Chris's house? Susie. It seems like Toby is setting up this horribly big tragedy And big is a kind of a topic I want to talk about right now. This just heart-wrenching tragedy. The entirety of chapter 4 is dedicated to this tragedy. Oh, it's also dedicated to Susie learning to like be strong with the turtle guy. It's probably a prophecy about Susie. I mean, this entire chapter 4 is so dire and so cold and so dark. It has to be the revelation of the point of this game, the heart of it, the darkest, deepest secret that it has. It feels like the entire point here is to say, this is the thing. This is that thing that I had the dream about. Somebody has to die. But how will the characters react knowing they have this fate looming over their heads? There are a couple specific quotes I want to bring up to sort of, get to the point of what I'm talking about here. One of them is Toby saying in all of the PR stuff for Deltarune, there's only one ending, or is there? And then I believe the most in-depth answer we've gotten about that is, there's something more important than seeing the ending. And as we know, that ending is very important. So it is possible that no matter what we do, nothing changes the ending. The ending is the ending, no matter what. I am kind of making this video not believing that there won't be some weird way to change something, and not that it's going to be a horrible, terrible, miserable, depressing, tragic ending, but sort of that, if we take what's here seriously, Ralsei specifically saying, I thought that maybe if this time implies a time loop. I thought that maybe if we were nice, things would work out better. That is a killer line. That is a very killer line. Because while this may have originated before Undertale did, unfortunately we now live in a world where Undertale is much more well known, so there's a lot of speaking to Undertale that has to happen. Obviously, this game is stuck to Undertale because the act versus spare versus fight system, that's all still in it. So the idea that Ralsei is getting disheartened about being nice not being enough is something to kind of tip the player off that this isn't like Undertale, where if you're simply nice, you can have a vastly different ending where everybody has a big party and there's rainbows and we drive into the sunset. It makes more sense that Toby would want to make that kind of game if the original main game, I'm almost willing to call Deltarune, is one where in the face of horrible despair and unbeatable odds, the characters learn the value of being alive and learn how to cherish each other and show affection and make things feel okay when they do go down. It would make sense that if trying your very, very, very best to make things better in the context of a bad situation if that's the main thing that he was thinking on, it would make sense that he would want to make a side game wherein, no, your choices do matter and you can vastly change the game based on them, with the extremes of pacifist or the murder route, or all of the different ones in the middle where they use that phone call with Sans to really make you care about what that dark stuff you did. But even then, most of the nuance of the neutral routes kind of gets forgotten in comparison to the big dramatic kill everything or save everything routes. You don't really get to dedicate the game to the subtleties of working within a kind of unfortunate situation. It seems to me like Deltarune is that game, it's that neutral ending where things aren't all perfect, but depending on what we do and how the characters come together at the end when this prophecy comes true, in probably a couple different ways. Does Noelle die? Does Susie die? Does somebody else have to die? Maybe it's not just the girls, I don't know. If we're working within that and there are ways to affect that, and numerous characters are trying the entire game to affect it by either saving Noelle or, I don't know, whatever the hell is going on with the holiday night thing, whatever is going on there, it feels like, maybe I should have prefaced, it feels to me like something is going on where somebody is, Susie isn't supposed to be in the prophecy. Susie is not supposed to be a hero, but she is here. It seems like something is going off script, and it seems like the lives of Susie and Noelle are kind of hanging in the balance. Maybe that's not really how things are going to shake out. Maybe that's just my first impression. But more important than the specifics is, you know, is this really a game where something bad is going to happen in the end no matter what, and we just have to make it work? It seems to me like we can see what those things would be. It seems like Chris in the Snowgrave route is trying to change things, or sorry, the player is trying to change things through Chris, because for some reason, Noelle could potentially alter something about the finale. For example, maybe Noelle is so strong that it's able to change how the ending goes. I don't know, like, it seems like there's something here where, you know, Susie is being led towards her doom in the main story. Now Noelle is being led towards something in the side story, and this whole drama and the way that those two characters are so deeply connected, and the way that like the biggest, most powerful characters either, you know, Mayor Holiday owning the whole town and controlling the people there, or the Knight controlling the whole Dark World. I mean, you know, whether the Knight is the Mayor or Des, we've got a full Holiday dominance over the Light World and the Dark World here, where the Knight calls the shots and can summon Titans and all this shit, and the Mayor is pulling these strings and doing probably Dark World stuff with Asgore. All of this comes together to say, like, there are people making moves, and the lives of Noelle, Des, and Susie all seem to be the ones that are most in the balance. And what a strange mix of endings that could possibly lead to depending on who gets their way and what happens. I realize now that I said all of that there's a lot of moving pieces I'm playing with and a lot of assumptions I'm making about things that seem to be implied and all of that, and some of it might be a total mess, so sorry if that's mostly wrong and partially just my first day impression, but it's not that my pulse is a theory about X, Y, or Z, you know. Personally, I feel like, you know, my very first impression was like, I feel like Susie was being set up as a sacrifice to bring Des back or get Noelle out of a prophecy that dooms her. That might be too fucked up, I don't know. At this point, I don't think that Chris would do that, but we have that final scene in Chapter 4 where it seems like Chris is genuinely torn between something they promised to the person on the phone or stopping the prophecy, so I might not be that wrong, but that's not really what this video is about. The reason I'm making this video is the quote right after the bit where Rousey says, like, I thought if we were nice things would just work out, as per Undertale. There's a bit where the player / Chris is reacting to Susie's smile as she's trying to sort of defy the final prophecy in her heart and, you know, kind of, as Rousey said, naively rally against it. There's something about how there's nothing more important than the smile that you're seeing. The smile of Susie, who is genuinely trying to stand up against what she just heard. And that centering on something that isn't the end feels like exactly where you need to pay attention for this game from now on. Because even though things, as you could immediately tell, have gotten dark and they're not going to be the same anymore from Chapter 4, Chapter 3 was included right along with it to basically serve as a status quo, or the way that things used to be. Chapter 3 is literally just the friends enjoying each other. It makes a couple steps to make Rousey seem a little bit less dodgy, and then Chapter 4 goes all the way to make Rousey like, no. Rousey's not pulling the strings anymore. Like, Rousey's really just a dude. He's a mysterious dude, but he doesn't know why he knows everything. He doesn't like that he knows everything. So we're at this point where we really do like the party. I myself had some concerns about Chris, but I just heard today that they wince when they have to kill Rousey and Susie to get the ice ring and the shade cloak and everything like that. They even wince when they kill Tenna. And that really helps me. Like, Chris is tough, Chris doesn't talk a lot, Chris obviously has a lot going on. I was worried this morning, like, does Chris not love Susie and Rousey? But that doesn't seem well-founded. It seems like this trio really cares about each other, and even some of the strangest links, like Susie and Rousey, who started off on a kind of awkward foot, have become like the most impressive duo. So they care a lot about each other, and I think the game wants us to cherish that, you know? And it's a little bit sickening, you know? It's almost a sickeningly nuanced feeling that I'm holding right now, because it's harsh, you know? Things are almost easier to process when they're bombastic and huge scale, like killing every monster in the underground is almost less disturbing than the stuff that we're seeing between Chris and Noelle in Snowgrave. I saw somebody just make a YouTube comment to that extent, and I agree. Obviously, it's so messed up and so grand scale to see, like, Kara and Frisk go on this killing spree. It's super, super, super dark. But there is a separate and almost equally freaked up element to these really subtle, nuanced interpersonal tragedies, Especially one as creepy as Snowgrave. But the way that this is being handled is the most important thing. The delicacy, the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful way that this freaking prophecy is delivered to us with the sound and the stained glass and the darker than dark, dark world and just everything about chapter 4. He really wants us to care about this. That's the point. He really wants us to care about this. The degree to which we care about somebody dying or whatever this prophecy is what defines Deltarune. You know what I mean? With Undertale, things can feel like an experiment. If one day you do this to get that ending, one day you do that to get that ending, the other day you do that to do that ending. But if in this game you can't change the ending, then everything you can change is that much more important, and everything you can savor is that much more important. It's this certain feeling that I'm kind of sitting with right now, where we're going to care so much about whatever we can do to change the ending that everything in the meantime gets more important. But also, if we can't change anything about the ending in the bigger picture, then the point of the game shifts away from it, You're less going to be, burning through this game just to get to the end and see what you can change, a la Snowgrave. You're more going to be savoring what's here, like Chapter 3. Chapter 3 doesn't add very much to the story, but it's just this constant act of being present and enjoying what we have in that moment. And I think there's a real intentionality between the pairing there. So, boy howdy. Obviously, I, like everybody else, will be hoping that things work out fine and waiting with bated breath for the next installment, but I think I can respect the prophecy. It sucks. It really sucks. I don't even know what it is, but it's the delicacy and the subtleness with which this is being treated makes me go, okay. I think that's the hook. Undertale was a game about your choices mattering. This is a game about how does it actually feel to be investing yourself in these characters knowing that they're doomed. And it's not in a Majora's Mask way where they're not actually doomed, It'd be kind of a cop-out if they weren't. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm sure if we can save them, it'll be very dramatic. I don't think Snowgrave is that route, but we'll see. And it's crazy. I wasn't making space for this feeling before, and now I am. But now that I am, I think it defines the game. I think this is what sets the game apart and makes it memorable. And boy, it's heavy. It's really heavy. This is a crazy feeling. Everything is different. Everything changes. I really didn't fully understand, what makes this different than Undertale? How do you sell this as different from Undertale? Until chapter 4. That fucking stained glass, man. He doesn't miss. When he's trying to make us care about something, he succeeds, and I care. I'm gonna be in heartache. I'm gonna have heartache. I'm gonna feel sick until I see some theories that make me not so worried anymore. Everything's different now. Everything's different now.